All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over some material for the AWD 1000 Web Technologies class for the fall 2017 semester, and I'm just about to start building our website. A couple things I wanted to mention to you first, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet. All right, and that is, yeah, I've got them all in here, good. All right. I follow this guy on YouTube. His name is Brad Traversy. He's from Boston. So he's got a little bit of a thick accent. Very knowledgeable guy. And can be a little bit sarcastic. Maybe that's one of the reasons I like him. But does a really good job of going over a lot of different IT web-related topics. If you go out to his website, doesn't look all that great or whatever, but videos and courses, he's got free videos and courses, and you can see he's got Bootstrap, Python, JSON. I'm going to go over this in a second, the Chrome extensions. And he literally has, so if I wanted something on CSS, it says here he's got 32 videos. All right, so these are all different types of videos that are related directly or indirectly to CSS. Okay, all right, that's the first thing. Second, a couple of his videos I'd really recommend, especially if you're just starting this: find a web developer job with no experience, web development in 2017. This is about 15 to 20 minutes long. This is a little longer. It's about a half an hour. He's got a thing in here called 12 Chrome extensions for web developers and designers. And I'll bring this up. I know this doesn't resonate on screen very well, but these, it's a baker's dozen, so he's actually got 13 of these. And there's some neat things in here. There's a JavaScript and a CSS code beautifier. And all you have to do to be able to add these things is go into Chrome. They're Chrome extensions. So if I go into Chrome, all right, and I click over on the three dots over here, all right, I can go there and I can go to More Tools and go down to, is it More Tools? Extensions, and it shows me the different extensions. These are the ones that I have currently enabled. All right, so these are the ones that I have. But if I go down to the bottom, it says get more extensions. So if I wanted that JavaScript and CSS beautifier, you can see I don't have it. I can go down here, click the get more extensions, and there should be a search up here someplace, and I can type in JavaScript and CSS beautifier. I don't know if it'll find it from that. There it is. JavaScript and CSS code beautifier. Click add to Chrome, and it says, do you want to add this extension? I click add extension. It takes its good sweet time, and it says that it's added it, and there it is right there. All right, so why is this important? Well, again, I should be able to come up then and bring up I have a JavaScript file here. Nope. So for instance, maybe this will show it better than anything else. If I come in here and I say I've got this JavaScript folder, and there's my jQuery file. All right. Well, you can see how ugly all that is. Okay. And now I've got to remember how to do this. Okay, so there it is. It found that file that I was looking at. And it says, man, this looks like a JavaScript file. Do you want to beautify it? And I'm going to click Beautify Now. and it changes it into this. I guess that's not my file, that's a different file. But notice it cleaned it up. It beautified it. There are literally, like I said, a baker's dozen. So there's that beautifier. There's more web developer stuff that you can use. We've talked before about using the inspector and using the console, but this adds to it. There's some other stuff in here that will work with GitHub. Another one in here that will work with PHP. Thing in there, I don't remember what Postman is. There is a window resizer. This is a neat one because this allows you to take your website and emulate different window types and different media. So if you wanted to emulate you using, I've been showing you this when I just shrink my browser window down to emulate a mobile phone. Well, you can do it from there where it'll actually show it. Colorzilla to allow you to work with colors. Lorem ipsum generator. If I've never mentioned this to you before, then shame on me. But if you go out to lipsum.org, I think it is. This will generate garbage text for you. So if I wanted 10 paragraphs of garbage text, I can go out to lipsum.org and it'll generate those 10 paragraphs for me. But to do that, I had to go out physically to another site. If I don't want to do that, I can download the Lorem Ipsum generator and do it right from where I am. Wappalizer, I don't remember exactly what that is. React, that's pretty much a more advanced tool. And Momentum, and I believe that has to do with analytics and the like. But it's just some neat stuff. All right? So, that said, I wanted to go through those with you. Again, I just showed you that. I'd recommend you look at his 10 top programming languages. I'd recommend that you look at the JavaScript fundamentals. He's got a lot of videos. And people say to me, hey, Jeff, I'd like to do that. I just don't have the time. Well, I don't have the time to sit and create 100 videos either, but I make the time. All right? All right, the last thing I want to look at before we physically start to create this site that we're going to work on is this right here. And that is, this is from W3 Schools. So, not going to spend a boatload of time on it because we've talked about this already. And that is the HTML5 semantic elements. HTML5 is all about semantics. And as it says, semantics is the study of meanings of words and phrases in a language. The idea is the browser is supposed to be able to look at your document if your document has been set up as an HTML5 document and have a better idea what is what. So before HTML5, what you did was basically if you wanted to break your document into different units, you had your HTML portion of the document, your head portion, your body portion. But if you wanted to take the body portion and break it up into units, you basically use divs. Or if it was inline, you'd use a span. But that was it. All right. I guess you had a few more. We had form tags. We had tables. But not too much more. Now what we have is we're starting to use the new semantic elements in HTML5. So this is kind of what an HTML5 document could look like. Technically, none of these are really mandatory. But I'm going to build this where I'm going to have a header. And actually in my header, I'm going to have a nav bar. I'm going to have a section, sometimes multiple sections. I didn't put any aside in, but it wouldn't be hard to do that. And we're going to have a footer. So what you see in this bulletized list off to the left here are the new semantic elements that are available to you in HTML5. So I'm going to very quickly, because I'm already at 10 minutes, so within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'd like to go over these major elements with you. Then I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the website, and in the next video, actually create the home page for the website. All right? So, the HTML5 section element, as it says, it defines a section in a document. It can hold anything you want to or need to. Want to or need to hold it. So as it says, a home page could normally be split into different sections if you had an introduction, a content, and a content on the same page. I'm not going to try it yourselves because that's all it does. There's nothing wrong with those examples, but I don't think it's going to really get us anywhere. If you want to see examples of this in progress, you can. But again, I'm going to use sections. Sections oftentimes contain articles. Some developers put articles in sections, some put sections in articles. That's a little confusing. I kind of look at it as a newspaper. And my sports section would contain articles about sports. My entertainment section would contain articles about entertainment. My editorial section would contain articles about, that were editorial related. So I tend to have my articles inside of sections. But as it says, an article specifies an independent self-contained content. So this looks exactly like what we had in the previous example, exactly, except previously we put it into a section and now we're putting it into an article. And again, that article could be placed inside of a section. So the author says here, kind of what I just mentioned to you, nesting article in a section or section in an article. Look familiar to you. The article element specifies independent self-contained content. The section defines section or a section in a document. Can we use the definition to decide how to nest these elements? It says no, we cannot. So on the internet, you'll find pages with sections that contains articles and articles that contain sections. You will also find pages with section elements containing other section elements. So we're talking about nesting sections within sections or nesting articles within articles. Again, I tend to use the mentality that they're talking about right here. Example of a newspaper. Sports articles are in a sports section. All right. The header. This is a little different because most people think, well, if it's a header, it's got to be what's at the top, typically. But if I break a web page into sections, it is totally permissible for each section to have its own header. For that matter, each section can have its own footer, as we'll get to in just a minute. So as mentioned there, the header element specifies a header for a document or a section. The header should be used to contain introductory content. As I already mentioned, you can have several header elements in the same document or on the same page. So here, in this article, we have a header. The header has an H1 and a P tag. Doesn't look special, doesn't really look any different. But remember, we're shooting for semantics here. We're trying to make, for lack of better words, look at it that we're kind of writing an outline for the browser to be able to understand what it is we're trying to do. The opposite of the header then would be a footer. Now, typically the footer would come at the bottom, but again, that's not even mandatory. We can have multiple footer sections. So here, that was our header stuff, and here's our footer stuff. You quite often, what you'll find in a footer area is contact information or legal information or copyright information, etc. Not only that, quite often that footer information will be in a smaller header size. In a smaller font size. All right. Next, we've got the nav element. All right. The nav, as it says, defines a set of navigation links. Now, typically you're not going to put all links of a document inside of a nav, only the major ones. So if we look right here, we'd have something like this. All right. You can have more than one nav on a page. It's not typically recommended that you do so. All right. And aside, maybe you've done this already. Let me see. I probably, knowing my luck, won't be able to find this. I may or may not have mentioned this. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So this isn't going to be a great example at all. But I still get copies of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. All right. Well, this is the page, the website, but I mean, it's got the stuff, but it's online. Maybe you've seen this. Okay, I guess I brought this up without even knowing. Sometimes it says, lawmakers slam Trump, revealed classified intel to Russians. All right, and maybe you've seen this before where you've got an article, and then off to the side over here, you've got another article. For instance, if this was lawmakers slam reports Trump revealed classified intel to Russians. So this could be the article. And over here, you might have another article on one of these Russian people that Trump allegedly leaked this classified material to. That would be an example of an aside. So it defines some content that's like a sidebar. It's off to the side. Maybe you've seen this before. Here's another example. You go out to maybe you grab your newspaper, not a hard or not an electronic copy, but a hard copy of a newspaper, and there was a fire, and that's the headline. There was a big fire, all right, and in that fire, someone's house burned down, and everybody got out safely, and some good Samaritan rushed in and grabbed the homeowner's dog. So your main lead story for the day is this big article on the fire. But along the side, they've got an article about the Good Samaritan. And maybe they've also got an article where they interview the fire chief. Those would be asides. All right? Now, typically an aside, and it's not shown here, but typically an aside would be off to the side. Doesn't have to be, but typically it's going to be. All right. Again, remember, going along with our idea of semantics, HTML5 has, now when you create a figure, when you've got an image in here, okay, and in that image, remember what's mandatory is a source and an alt tag. What's recommended is that you put a width and a height in so the system knows exactly how to set things aside for you, space-wise. But now if you want to, you can add a caption to that figure. And if you do that, you wrap the whole thing in a figure tag. So as it says, this is another semantic tag, the purpose of which is to add a visual explanation to an image. So there is the image, there. So this whole thing is in a figure tag, and inside of that figure tag is a fig caption that comes right after the image itself. I believe you can also put this before. Probably won't let me run this like this, but we'll try it anyway. Yep, then it goes on top. All right. So the image element defines the image, the fig caption element defines the caption. So we're just about done. Why do you use these? With HTML4, developers use their own IDs and class names to style elements. So you had div, and you might have said div ID equals nav, or div ID equals sidebar, or whatever. Now, with HTML5 being more semantic, all right, they're saying HTML4 made it nearly impossible for search engines to identify the correct web page content. But with the new HTML5 elements, the ones I just went over with you, this should be clearer for the browser. According to the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, a semantic web allows data to be shared and reused across applications, enterprises, and communities. So I went over most of these, not every one, but I went over article, aside, there's details, which I didn't go over. I went over fig caption and figure. I went over footer. I went over header. Main is one, it's an interesting one because quite often you surround everything other than your header and footer in main. All right. Mark for highlighted text. Nav I went over. Section I went over. And I did not go over summary, nor did I go over time. So that's it. So the time has come. All right. So what are we going to be doing? About time I show you, right? Okay, so let's show you. In the next slide, or in the next video, I'm going to start building this. It's a cheesy, cheap little site that I created that's called the St. Louis Blues Line. Keep it very soft, simple, and quick here. All right. My daughter is engaged to a really nice young man named Brian, and Brian is a hockey guy, among other things. He's a sports guy, as am I. But coming from Milwaukee, we had the Admirals, which is a semi-pro hockey team, but we never had a pro hockey team. So he's trying to get me into hockey. So I decided to start to create a site for the St. Louis Blues. Now this is a cheap, cheesy little site. It's the Blues line, and that's a blue line. A little bit of text. Here's a Blues logo. Subscribe to our newsletter. You can see I tried to use their colors. I've actually embedded some videos in here. So here's my header area. I've got my nav in my header area. All right. I've got my footer area. This is my main area. This is a section. This is a section. This is a section. You may or may not have been able to tell, and it's a little kooky for lack of better words, but I went in and typed in here mouse, and I went to touchpad settings, and I went down here to additional mouse options, and I found under pointers, okay, and I went down to link select, and I actually went online and found a link that looks like a hockey puck. So you may or may not be able to tell this, but when I go over here and I take my mouse, which is now a pointer or an arrow, normally this would change to a pointer. Now it changes to a hockey puck. You'll notice that when I hover over something, it changes color. And there's an about page, not much, just some text, and a contact page. So in the next video, I'm going to build the home page. Then in the following video, I'm going to build the about page. Then in the one after that, I'm going to build the contact page. Then I'm going to come back, and I see something I don't like here. So I've already built this, as you can probably guess. That should say class equal active. Why? I want to show you. See where that says right there, home? Notice when I refresh. Well, something's goofed up, but I'll fix it. When I go to about, see how about is bolded? How contact is bolded? That should be the same thing for the home page. We'll fix that in just a minute. But I'm going to start building this then in the next video. See you then.